Hi, I have a short story I'd like to share with everyone. I call it Improving People's Lives One Drop at a Time. I arrived in the small village of Palo Gordo in the highlands of Guatemala the day after Christmas 1978, after an 8-hour bus ride from Antigua. And yes, that bus had chickens on it. Our group of volunteers had spent the previous 3 months in intensive training for language, for culture, and for technical aspects. But now I was on my own, and I was faced with an immense challenge. To establish a reforestation and soil conservation program, to build a tree nursery where no Peace Corps volunteer had been before. But before I could save the world, I had to find a place to live. I met the mayor, Don Pedro, and we had a few drinks, and then a few drinks more, as is custom, down at the store that Doña Luisa ran. After talking with them, I decided I would look for a place to live in the village. And I found one. A nice place, concrete floor, electricity, outside cooking area so the wood smoke wouldn't come into the house, nice big sink for washing clothes and dishes, but no water. You see, nobody in the village had running water. Everybody used water from the communal standpipe. So I needed a way to get water to my house. The next market day, I walked into town and bought 2 5-gallon plastic jerry cans for water, a green one and a yellow one. These would suit my needs. When full, I could still carry one in each hand. 10 gallons of water is a lot of water for one person, and the sink provided another 25 or 30 gallons of storage. So armed with my nice water containers, I walked down to the village standpipe for the first time. There was a line, 25, 30 people. Women, young girls, all speaking quietly amongst themselves and waiting patiently. I asked one woman, "Is this the line to get water?" She looked me up and down quickly, said yes. So I moved to the back of the line. And as I was setting down my jerry cans, all conversation stopped. All eyes turned to me. Feeling quite self-conscious, I looked back and I noticed that I was the only man standing in this line. I noticed that I towered head and shoulders above everyone else. I noticed that nobody else had plastic 5-gallon jerry cans. Instead, each woman carried a 2-handled plastic jug called a cántaro that when filled with water they would balance on their heads and walk home. So there we stood patiently waiting in line, a half hour, an hour, maybe 2 hours, I don't remember. And when it was my turn, I filled my water jugs. It took longer than expected, and I felt guilty. I felt guilty for taking so long. I felt guilty for taking so much more water. When full, I picked up my 80-pound load, walked back to my house. I did not go back that afternoon and stand in line again, as I had originally planned. The next morning, with roosters crowing, with horses delivering firewood to my neighbors, there was a knock on my front gate. Opening the gate, I looked out and saw 2 young girls, 9 years old, maybe 10. The older one leaned forward and said to me, "Don Raul, our mother has sent us here with water because she knows that you do not have a woman." Moving quickly, they walked into my courtyard, emptied their cántaros of water into my sink, and giggling nervously, ran home. At that point, so many things became clear, though I didn't realize it at the time. First and foremost, carrying water, like cutting wood, is arduous, time-consuming work, and it falls most often to women and children the world over. Without water, there would be precious little time and interest in a nursery, in school gardens, in soil conservation programs. Without women to help them, men would have no time to participate in these programs. And I learned that development needs to first and foremost include the circumstances of everyone involved, women as well as men, children as well as adults. Development must take into account the needs of all of the people involved and look at the needs that are most important to them at that moment, not the needs that we may think are most important or the needs that we are best prepared to address. So what happened? We set ourselves to finding water for the village, but that's a story for another time.